Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
This society needs a spectacle. It might help us to see some people.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 29th of August 2020, we look at dignity, D-I-G-N-I-T-Y, dignity, with the view being that with the impending general elections in St Vincent and the Grenadines inching closer day by day, the Vincentian electorate will be well served to ensure that the country and all of its people win by not surrendering our dignity. The Oxford Dictionary defines dignity as the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. And the Macmillan Dictionary states that dignity is respect that other people have for you or that you have for yourself. The Harvard University lecturer Dr. Donna Hicks, PhD, in an article dated the 10th of April 2013, entitled "What is the Real Meaning of Dignity?" states that dignity is our inherent value and worth as human beings. Everyone is born with it. Those definitions tell us that dignity is a quality which everyone is born with. Dignity involves being worthy of honor. Dignity is about respect, respect for oneself, i.e., self-respect, or respect that you have for yourself, and respect from others, or respect that others have for you. The daily experience of Vincentians and the assault on the dignity of many by the members of the regime, in particular by the leader of the regime, is what triggered us here on A View from the Outside to cover this topic today and to urge all Vincentians, both at home in St Vincent and the Grenadines and in the Vincentian diaspora, not to surrender our self-worth, not to surrender our inherent value, not to surrender the quality which we were all born with, not to surrender our dignity. Vincentians, in order not to surrender your dignity, it is vitally important, crucial even, to be able to spot the signs when your dignity is assaulted, vandalized, or cruelly mocked. Yogi Farrell's dignity was certainly assaulted when she was arrested and charged and carted off to the mental institution, seemingly with the acquiescence of the power of the establishment and the agents and enablers of the ruling regime, for having allegedly verbally abused the wife of the current Minister of Finance in St Vincent and the Grenadines, the government minister with whom she, Yogi Farrell, alleged that she had an extramarital affair with. Charges which were later completely dropped against her. She, Yogi Farrell, continues to languish while her tormentors continue to flourish. Calypsonian singing Sandra shot to world fame in 1987 with her song entitled Sexy Employers, which is more popularly known as Die With My Dignity. In that song, she certainly sent a strong message to women especially, to have strong moral resistance and not to succumb to employers who demand favors, sexual and otherwise, for a job or other opportunity. That same message by Singing Sandra is still relevant and probably even more pertinent in the current climate in today's St Vincent and the Grenadines, where women are abused, disrespected, and their worth and value demeaned. In the lyrics of that song, Singing Sandra continues to urge everyone. She's urging Vincentians to let those unscrupulous employers keep their money or whatever else they offer, and you keep your honey and die with your dignity. Do not surrender your dignity for the promise of a scholarship or a job. Remember your inherent value and worth. You must remember that at all times. It is certainly an assault on the dignity of the female members of the party of the ruling regime, the Unity Labour Party, the ULP, when their leader publicly declared that there are no women in the party of the caliber of Camilo Gonzalez, his son, and Sabuto Caesar to lead that party. Women, come on. Do not surrender your dignity with such an assault. You are worth more, much more than that. It is an assault on your dignity when you are made to feel that you cannot aim for the best jobs and opportunities in the country. It is a further assault on your dignity when you see those same jobs handed out through nepotism to the leader of the regime's family and other members of his elite group. Vincentians, do not surrender your dignity to anyone. It is certainly an assault on the dignity of Vincentians when you have a regime which clearly believes that your vote is worth their once every 5 yearly distribution of lumber, cement, and galvanized, and their now crassly named love box. Do not surrender your dignity and vote for that. Vote for jobs. Vote for better standard of living for you and your family, and for the security of your future and the future of your family and the future of the country called St Vincent and the Grenadines. It is an assault on your dignity when the leader of the regime constantly quotes the lines from the poem by the late Guyanese poet and social activist Martin Carter. The mouth is muzzled by the food it eats to live. And then, if you dare criticize his regime, you are singled out for victimization and denied the crumbs which they hand out. Vincentians, do not allow such an assault to make you surrender your dignity. Vincentians, do not ignore the blatant and visible signs. It is an assault on your dignity when your financial independence is sapped away from you and you are made poor, many believe deliberately. And if you remain subdued and openly support them, they place you on public assistance. It is a further assault on your dignity when the leader of the regime brags about the swelling numbers on the public assistance register, as if that is an achievement in governance. Farmers, do not surrender your dignity for the promise of being placed on public assistance. Your future and that of your family are worth much more than that. It is an assault on your dignity when the regime announced with pomp and fanfare and used your tax dollar, our tax dollar, to conduct a country poverty assessment, but has refused to disclose the report for years now. Demand more, Vincentians. Do not surrender your dignity. Vincentians, your dignity is assaulted when the regime wants you to accept without question the dilapidated conditions in the schools, the disrepair of the roads, the disrepair and deplorable condition of the general hospital and the clinics up and down the country, and the lack of basic medication and supplies. Your dignity is assaulted when you were promised Christmas in May, with the offer of concessions on barrels from countries which were locked down due to the coronavirus pandemic COVID-19, where hundreds of thousands of people are killed. Christmas in May still has not come. Do not surrender your dignity for that. You are worth more, much more than that. Your dignity is assaulted when you are forced to live in fear and find yourself unable to be critical of the unjust things happening around you. Your dignity is assaulted when the radio station belonging to the people of St Vincent and the Grenadines, the National Broadcasting Corporation, is used by the leader of the regime to cruelly mock and demean citizens, including Kingsley de Freitas and Rash John. It is a further assault on your dignity when the leader of the opposition is blatantly denied the privilege of using the same radio station which is funded by the taxpayers of St Vincent and the Grenadines. Your dignity is assaulted and vandalized when the regime takes away your land by way of compulsory acquisition and refuses to pay you for your land, even when there is a court order to do so. Your dignity is constantly being assaulted with the leader of the regime having his knee on the necks of the people and the democratic institutions of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Do not surrender your dignity and remain silent when people who they perceive not to support the regime have their dignity flagrantly assaulted. Simone Murray and her husband, Dr. Wayne D. Murray, and their family are the latest in a growing list to suffer from this. Their land has been taken away from them, and the security of their future and that of their children, including their education, has been significantly weakened and undermined. And that is so, while the path is paved for members of the regime and their families as they continue to soar unhindered and uninhibited. Rashaka at Bukament had his lands taken away from him, and it is alleged that he was callously told that if he does not like what he's been paid, then he can go to court and ask for more. Marcus de Freitas still languishes without payment, a decade and a half after his property was taken away from him, even after the court ordered that he is to be compensated for his property. Former Commissioner of Police Randolph Toussaint died without receiving compensation which the court ordered after his land was taken away from him. Former landowners at Argyll still wait in hope for compensation for their land over a decade after their land was taken away from them to construct the Argyll International Airport, for which they as in the regime have ignored the Constitution, the highest law of the land, and provided no accountability in line with the Constitution for the Argyll International Airport. They have provided no accountability to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Bigger Biggs still languishes without restoration, almost a decade since they spitefully, according to Bigger Biggs, destroyed his multi-million-dollar business and left it in ruins. They continue to pursue him on his own land where they arrested him. Do not, Vincentians, do not surrender your dignity and remain silent, believing that you are safe, because you could be next. For those of you living in the Vincentian diaspora, particularly those in New York, one of the places where many of the barrels for Christmas in May were expected to have come from, your dignity was assaulted and cruelly mocked when you were in the most demeaning way described as dog walkers and babysitters. When the leader of the regime referred to you as living hand to mouth and living in cockroach-infested basements. Such assault on your dignity must never, ever be tolerated, and you must never, ever surrender your dignity to anyone. Vincentians, we here on A View from the Outside urge you to hold your heads high and know that it is crucial to maintain your dignity. Young people, do not surrender your dignity for the lure of a free concert from an overseas artist or any other artist for that matter. Those of you who hang out in bars and shops, on the block especially, do not surrender your dignity for a drink of rum or a piece of barbecue chicken or pork or some other food. You are worth much more than that. Your vote is worth much more than that. It is about a brighter future for you. It is about jobs. It is about skills. It is about employment prospect. Do not, Vincentians, surrender your dignity for the money which members of the regime are allegedly sharing out in secret meetings around the country. You and your vote are worth much more than that. It is not worth losing your life for that, as an elderly woman is alleged to have done in her quest for that free money which is allegedly being shared out by members of the regime. Vincentians have the desire to be treated as someone of value and at all times protect that inherent quality which you were born with. Protect your dignity. Register to vote and go out and vote for a government which respects your dignity. We here on A View from the Outside implore you to use every resolve to safeguard your dignity. Let us all find our resolve to protect our dignity. And as you do that, as we all do that, let us all bear in mind the words of Martin Luther King Jr., who said, I quote, "One's dignity may be assaulted, vandalized, cruelly mocked, but it can never be taken away unless it is surrendered." Unquote. Vincentians, we must never, ever surrender our dignity to anyone. Until next week, Randy and all of the listeners, this is Brereton Horne with A View from the Outside, with a reminder to send your feedback as usual to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. We also invite you to visit and like our Facebook page, A View from the Outside, and also visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel at JMB Horne. Randy and all the listeners, have a pleasant Saturday, a wonderful Sunday, and a productive week ahead, with all of us ensuring that our dignity is intact and with the determination never, ever to surrender our dignity to anyone. All the best to you, Randy, and the listeners.